and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jabal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Nemani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The public defender's office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with highs around 75. Winds out of the east around 5 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows dip down to about 52. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 78. Low 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered storms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 71.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
With your afternoon sports report on KVFD, I'm Rob Jones. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named all-league selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. Major League Baseball scores from last night: Yankees over the Phillies 6-3, Mets over the Braves 7-2, White Sox down to Brewers 6-4, Twins edged to Pirates 5-4, Cubs blanked the Royals 2-0, Alec Mills 7 innings on the hill, allowing just 3 hits for the Cubs. Colorado over San Francisco 7-6. San Diego nipped LA 5-4. Oakland trounced Seattle 11-1. Ramon Laureano, Chris Davis, and Stephen Piscotty all with 2 hits for the A's. I'm Rob Jones, and that's your sports update for Divine Intervention on KVFD AM 1400.
They had snuck in the night and committed these murders. Nobody had a clue about who or a why.
You got 8 people dead, and things like that don't usually happen in a small town. I mean, they don't usually happen anywhere, and it was just a real shock.
4+ years after these murders, and they couldn't have written a more sinister story than what's playing out in Pike County, Ohio right now.
Listen to the Piketon Massacre wherever you get your podcasts.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company helps you customize your home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Unlike things you paid for you didn't need, like the Vacnado 2000. A Wi-Fi connected vacuum that uploads Dust Bunny data to the cloud for real-time optimization. Whatever that means. But really, it's just a very expensive doggy chew toy. With Liberty Mutual, get customized home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
With Brevant Enlist E3 soybeans, you get a bushel more per acre than the competition on average, plus clean fields and peace of mind, which is great news.
Well, not for the other guys.
Exactly. You already know what you're getting with the same old. Not enough. Well, that's not us. Visit Brevant.com to see for yourself. Brevant Seeds. It's about time. Brevant 2019 on-farm trials. 695 comparisons within 3 days of relative maturity.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, I am the Doctor of Truth here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. You can always join the program by calling 515-955-1400. That's 955-1400. We're on YouTube at AM 1400 KVFD. Excuse me, YouTube at 1400 KVFD. KVFD in lowercase letters, by the way. My Facebook page is at AM 1400 KVFD, and my Twitter account is at JMike1400, and all the letters are lowercase as well. You can join all those ways, or you can just turn on your radio. You may want to call today because I welcome to the program our friend Representative Ann Meyer. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Hey, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I'm real good. I look like a real doughboy compared to you. You've got all the sun over there, I see.
Oh, it's just out in the backyard.
Out in the backyard,
yeah,
huh?
We certainly haven't been traveling, sadly, but we've canceled 3 vacations this year so far.
Wow.
It's just, it's just not safe to travel for us, especially when Jim has to come back and probably quarantine after being on a plane and out of state. So
I saw Jim last week. Everybody in his office had a mask, of course.
Of course. And
I don't know if I had to wear one or not. But.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
And then everyone, I had my yearly checkup as well, and they're very safe about it. You are wearing a mask when you come in. They tell you when it's okay to actually come to the doctor's into the office, and so there's not crowds in the waiting room. So Unity Point has really been handling patient
They're
care.
pretty strict over there at Unity Point.
Yeah, they should be. They're just trying to keep people safe.
That's all right. That's I respect that. I go to other cities that have mask laws, I mean, everybody has to wear a mask everywhere, except in a restaurant. And I'm not upset about that. I'm glad our governor is taking the approach that she is and letting people kind of decide for themselves, because that's called freedom in our country. I know that really annoys liberals, but that people actually get to have a say in their own life. They should be lectured to by experts, but.
And I would like to talk about that. There is a manipulation of the information by the media. You know what? From the very first press conference that Governor Reynolds, when COVID first hit, she said, if you cannot social distance, if you can't be 6 feet apart from somebody, you should be wearing a mask. People need to take personal responsibility. You should be washing your hands and doing it. But what we're hearing, and she's still saying the same thing. They started a governor and Iowa Department of Public Health, they started a campaign, Step Up, Mask Up Iowa, because now we have data that shows that even our cloth masks do prevent the spread. And so, you know what the headlines could say? They could say, Governor Reynolds strongly encourages the use of masks in public, because that's what she does. Instead, they choose to focus on, the headline is, Governor Reynolds refuses to put a mask mandate in place.
Because no matter how awful it is, it's been politicized. The Democratic Party wants to tie this terrible virus and all of our behavior right back to the Republican Party. I mean, it's sickening. Why aren't we doing something together? I mean, we can't even get together on this because, oh God, we have a moral obligation to get Republicans out of office or some nonsense. I'm not anti-intellectual. I respect the experts in the field, but I also think that individual rights are something we should discuss and not dismiss. Gee, call me crazy.
And, we do have physicians out there who are pro one party or the other, and their information is skewed to denigrate our governor. And she is following the data. Just today, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the press conference today, but our hospitalizations are ticking up slightly as far as COVID patients. But what they're not telling you, again, information is delivered in such a way that what they're not telling you is every single person now, regardless of what they're admitted to the hospital for, is tested for COVID. Mm-hmm. And even if it's not their problem, they're considered a COVID admission. And
well,
again,
they like to read with a headline that says 5 more deaths. Reynolds won't demand masking. I mean, it's cheap sensationalist journalism, and it's happening. And I'm disappointed because I know some of the Des Moines TV guys. I'm very disappointed that it's happening on our local stations down there.
I am too, because they could really help to unite the state instead of increase the division. But
No, they much more heap scorn on people that may disagree with a brilliant writer in the Des Moines Register. And listen, I knew a couple of English majors in high school. They weren't that good. Or English majors in college, excuse me. They weren't that good, Ann. They just weren't, I'll tell you. Ann Meyer is our guest, Representative Ann Meyer at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I do want to touch on your time in office. I know you're up for re-election. You don't have an opponent yet, but I'm sure they'll bring somebody out of the depths and who will be wearing a mask around their whole body and challenge you in some way. But your time in office, I'll tell you, you're a worker. I've been watching. I watch all our politicians. You're a worker.
And I am completely proud of my record. When I was first elected and I was knocking on so many doors, my main issue at the door, which I didn't know going in, was going to be, but the main issue turned out to be mental health services.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say that we passed several pieces of legislation that have helped us in that. So number one, just this session we passed, and I, again, was working with Mark Campbell on this for the last year and a half. We have, and he is a great representative for
Mark, yeah.
For Webster County.
Mm-hmm.
We passed legislation that allows a new region, a new mental health region to be formed. As you know, well, we're down to, I believe, 19 counties because 3 counties did leave and went with other regions. But now we're down to 19 counties, which is still too large. Our mental health region, as we talked about before, it goes from Pocahontas to the Mississippi River. That's too big.
A little too much, huh?
It is.
Yeah, I think so.
So we were able to get legislation passed in both houses and signed by the governor that said, number one, a new mental health region could be formed, and number two, the DHS shall facilitate that formation. Another thing that I'm really, really proud that we got through the House, the Senate, and to the governor's desk to be signed was the telehealth bill that said school districts can contract with mental health workers and deliver services in the school setting privately at school, so parents don't have to come and bring their kids out. There are a lot of kids that do receive mental health services, therapy, psychiatrists, So now they have the ability to contract and get that help in the schools.
Okay.
So those are two things that I am really proud of. And I know we don't agree on this. I'm proud of the legislation that we were able to temper in my first year regarding the Judicial Nominating Committee.
Mm-hmm.
It matters being a voice that can dissent from the party,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy. I am a Republican. I'm conservative. I have conservative values. But we have to look at everybody's voice and compromise. And I'm glad I can be that person.
You think the Supreme Court is a vehicle for that sort of thing? You think the Supreme Court is a vehicle that can decide what's best for everybody?
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the people elect the legislature.
That's right. And a governor.
And the governor. And I do think that when we pass law and the governor signs it, it shouldn't be turned over by non-elected people.
That's right. Yeah. But I'll tell you, if that's the only thing we ever disagree about, and we're not worried about it. I mean, we don't have anything to worry about. Let me put it that way. I am concerned very much, and I have to tell you that I was. Anybody that's listened to me at all knows that what happened to Pastor Henderson wounded me, and then to find out the story behind the accused man's actions over many, many years.
Yes.
And we couldn't do anything with him.
Right.
I mean, it's an outrage. It's an outrage. We should not tolerate it in our city or even our state. So, and Mark's been in here talking about all access, not an all access, but an access center, and he's mentioned you, of course, as working on this project. Where do we stand on an access center here in Fort Dodge now?
Well, again, for the past 3 years, the CEO of our mental health region has promised it every fall, right before we have our supervisors have an opportunity to turn in their letter of intent to leave the region. And so it's promised every fall, and then we have no contracts. We have, I know there's been talks about putting it in Fort Dodge, but we have no plans, no contracts. So I feel that if Webster is in a new region, a newly formed region, or if they join, if it ends up we join another region, I'm confident that serious talks can continue with that.
All right.
It has to be. We have to.
Yes.
We have to get the help here in Webster County that we need.
Well, we certainly need it in Webster County, but it's obviously we need it around the state.
Around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, I told the story on air about my son was in the Marine Corps in Iraq, mm-hmm. and one of his fellow Marines was a college graduate, had an undergraduate degree. He's a big man, African-American man, 6'5", 6" or whatever. He's intelligent enough to know he was in trouble. And he was trying to get help to the Veterans Administration, but apparently he came unglued at one of the office visits and started throwing chairs around. The police came, Des Moines police came, and took him to jail. And he sat in jail overnight, and while he was in jail, he begged the corrections officers to find a hospital room for him. Mm-hmm. They couldn't find one in Des Moines, mm-hmm. in a city the size of Des Moines. So the next morning, they cut him loose. They just, okay, your time's over, go home. I mean, this is a guy who, with weapons training, combat experience, he knows he's mentally ill,
yep.
and there's nothing we can do for him. That's crazy.
Yeah. And more private entities are opening up. Like the hospital in Des Moines that's in progress. So there will be some more beds. That's probably not what we're talking. I would again eventually love to have the ability to have a longer term psych unit, like our mental health, behavioral health unit,
sure.
like we did back in 2008 that closed because we lost our psychiatrist.
Yes.
There are some very valid concerns from our CEO, who is Leah Glasgow. She has very valid concerns about reimbursement and a different. It's a hospital classification that they're able to draw down some federal funding, which is very important. So we're working with our federal delegation to hopefully. Right now, our limit in Fort Dodge is 49 inpatient beds. If we could increase that and say, like, if you want to have more beds and still carry that, be able to draw down those federal funds, it's okay for 10 or 12 of your beds to be behavioral health beds that wouldn't be included in your 49 beds. So, you know, nothing happens overnight, but I do think that our local system and Unity Point, if they had that type of support from the government, that they'd be interested. The concerns that were raised about opening a psych unit were mainly financial. And it's about losing federal money because of having too many patients in the hospital, and
losing federal money because of too many patients.
That's because of the classification of the size.
Really?
Yes, because rural in this classification, it gives the feds give support to smaller hospitals so they can remain open, and also reimbursement rates for mental health. So, I think those are two things that we will be able to work on with the federal delegation and our state delegation and our state funds, because we do fund Medicaid. I mean, your tax dollars go to state Medicaid, so reimbursement rates can go up for that.
Well, we have a real problem out there. It's a medical problem.
Yes, it is a medical
and
problem.
You're a medical person, and again, I can't. I'm having a rough time getting over the loss of our pastor, our Lutheran. I'm not even a Lutheran, but
you don't have.
You don't have to be.
You didn't even have to attend that church to know everything Pastor Henderson did for this community.
Yeah, or even
selflessly,
or even go to church. But he was quite the guy. I'm glad to see that Pastor Hill of First Presbyterian is now working with serving our servants. Austin's a good man, and
he is a good man.
And it's just a tragedy, and I don't want to dwell on it, but it's just. I just don't want anybody to forget it.
No.
That we need to take steps to help in this area.
Agreed, 100%.
Anyway, Representative Ann Meyer is our guest. What do you feel is your biggest accomplishment in your time in office?
Actually, those two things are the things that had made it to the governor's desk. That I was directly involved with, especially that legislation on the mental health regions. Now, this session, I really fought to get my bills to the floor. So one of them was the hands-free distracted driving bill.
Sure.
I still want to go back in next year and introduce that right away. Because our bills are dead now. This is a new session. Everyone's up for re-election.
Right.
Everything has to go in fresh.
Is Cranbrink and Sexton, are they up for re-election?
Sexton is. Of course, senators are every 4 years, and so Tim has 2 more years.
I didn't think Tim was.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I was really proud of, and I, again, fought to get it to the floor, and it did go to the floor and passed with 100 to 0. No one voted against this. It was a bill to start a pilot program with the adult changing tables in DOT rest stops. And if you remember, that was for bigger kids that can't be on the kangaroo table because of their disability. They're not going to be potty trained, and they need a private and dignified place to take care of this need. And the parent, I talked to every parent who has a child with disability. I talked to people who don't have family members with this. They'd never heard that this was an issue because no one ever talks about it. It's just something in the disability community that you just deal with.
Sure.
I mean, that was an important issue. I was proud that it got to the floor, and then COVID, and then I didn't get it through the Senate, and that was stopped there. Now I have talked to one of the senators, and I think you know him, Senator Zahn. We talked about this when we came back, and he said, I really, really like this bill. And we're going to do a companion bill when we go back. So if I have a companion in the Senate, so we're both going in, introducing the same bill, he can fight for it in the Senate. I will, again, promote it in the House, and hopefully we can get that to the governor's desk.
Yeah,
I'll be really happy with that. And then the other thing that I worked on a lot was the child care issue. The access to safe and affordable child care. I had one of my bills actually ended up going through rules, and it didn't need to be voted on. The Rules Committee just said, okay, we're going to increase the definition of infants and toddlers from 2 years old to 3 years old. So even though I got that on the House floor, it didn't make it through the Senate, but they still signed it into rules. The other thing was increasing the provider rates for people who take child care assistance. And I know we talked about this pre-COVID, and I fought for it to get it through the Senate post-COVID every single day. And it just didn't get through. It
wasn't going, huh?
It wasn't one of their priorities. There's a lot of backroom negotiation that goes on. If they want, Senate wants their bills through, we want our bills through, so they kind of will kind of tit for tat stuff, which I don't like. I will tell you what, Mike, I am not a politician, and I was that last day I was talking with the person who was taking care of that bill in the Senate, and I just had a taste of politics, which really rubbed me the wrong way, and I let him know, this is good policy. I'm not going to do a tit for tat with you.
Yeah,
so
well, I'd like to see the time when patronage is out the window. I've read a couple of books about former Chicago Mayor Richard Daley, the first one, and he was a piece of work. I mean, as long as Mayor Daley was in office, a lot of people had do-nothing jobs at city's expense. So I'd like to see an end to patronage, but probably not going to happen. Not completely anyway. Somebody's going to have to get their campaign volunteers a job somewhere. Anyway, Representative Ann Meyer has been our guest. Thank you so much, Ann.
Thanks for having me.
This is AM. Yeah, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 2:35. The news is next.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dark Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with one count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake in the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Namani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The Public Defender's Office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named all-league selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. It's 2:39 AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Beautiful day, 73 degrees. 75 should be our high today under a sunny sky. Overnight partly cloudy with a low of 52. Tomorrow it'll be sunny with a high of 57. Thursday, chance of rain, sunny with a high of 83. On Friday, showers and thunderstorms, sunny with a high of 84. Saturday, a chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 90. We're going to get back to August then. And on Sunday, it'll be mostly sunny with a high of 91. Monday, sunny with a high of 88. Right now, again, just a very few clouds in the sky, 73 degrees. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. John Olmsted has died at the age of 58. John C. Olmsted has passed away at the age of 58. Services for Mr. Olmsted will be tomorrow here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:41 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 73 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 9 1/4 at 308 1/4. December down 8 1/4 at 320 1/4. March down 8 cents at 332 1/4. May down 7 3/4 at 340 1/4. August soybeans down 13 3/4 at 883 3/4. September down 13 1/4 at 879 3/4. November down 14 1/2 1.5 at 8.81 3/4. January down 13 3/4 at 8.88. September wheat down 12 3/4 at 5.08 1/4. Soybean meal down 3.40 a ton at 2.8370. August live cattle down 75 cents at 102.27. October down 80 at 107.47. August feeders down 17 at 144.70. September down 45 at 146.62. August lean hogs down 17 cents at 49.70. October up 62 at 49.02. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Summer is the season for wild berries. Hi, I'm Julie Harker, and this is Healthy Living on Brownfield. One of the most popular wild berries is the blackberry, and they grow among thorns. Wear long pants and long sleeves when picking them. Other wild berries that are a summer favorite are mulberries from the mulberry tree. Their fruit is dark and juicy and kind of look like blackberries, but there are no thorns involved. In fact, you can put a blanket or cloth under the tree and give the limbs a good shake to get the mulberries to the ground. You'll have to compete with wild birds and animals for these berries because they love them, but there are often plenty to go around. Now, with gooseberries, when they're unripe and still green, they're used for pies. When the gooseberry ripens, though, it's red and sweet and quickly consumed by birds. Blackberries and mulberries are also great for pies and cobblers. All of these wild berries are good for you, rich in antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins C and K. The Missouri Department of Conservation says it's important to make sure you know exactly the berries you're picking so they're not confused with something poisonous. And ask permission from landowners whose berries are on private property. Sharing with them is a good way to spread out the harvest. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth, ladies and gentlemen, at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Joining me now, not surprisingly, as a member of the Webster County Farm Bureau, he is Steve Peterson from beautiful downtown Slifer. How you doing, Steve?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Well, we were talking just before we went on the air here that we're in a drought situation.
We are.
Other areas have it worse than we do, but it's definitely in the western half of the state this year, as opposed to, 2012 we were talking?
Right.
When it was more in the eastern half of the state.
Correct. We were extremely dry here, though, in 2012. I believe probably all of your listening area would be in what they call a D1 or a D2 drought, D2 being a severe drought, with the kind of the center of it, in that Lake City, Carroll.
Sure.
I know some farms down around Sheridan that haven't had a measurable rain since sometime in June. So, there's definitely some pockets, and even the rain this year has been so sporadic. I've had rains on my farms that my neighbors within a mile away didn't get, and vice versa. So it's just been a very kind of abnormal pattern this year. We can't really seem to churn up a good soaking rain that just crosses the state. So we get these kind of pop-up popcorn type showers, and it's definitely showing on a lot of the crops right now, and this is a critical time of filling the grain, whether it be corn or soybeans. So I know the Iowa State Extension is going to be putting on some classes, I believe, here in the next few weeks about drought concerns, and it gets into the forage and things like that, with how that affects the feeding capabilities of some of that stuff. And I've seen some of my Farm Bureau colleagues, they post stuff on social media. They've started releasing some of the CRP acres. They can release those in an emergency for grazing.
Explain what CRP acres are, please.
Well, CRP is a conservation reserve program, and what we do is we try to. It's an incentive for farmers to enroll acres into highly erodible or acres that are basically critical to conservation.
Sure.
On my farm, I have like along the dredge ditches, the ditch banks, waterways, for example, different things like that. So we enroll those acres into programs through the NRCS and the government, the USDA, and we commit to usually, I think like on mine, I go into a 10-year contract, and we accept a payment, just like a rental rate. So the government is technically renting this ground from us,
right?
And we take it out of production, and then we maintain it into grass and native species. For it's a good habitat for birds, butterflies, a lot of different things. We have to do some maintenance on it. I think every 5 years. That's why you'll see a lot of burns in the spring. We're burning the CRP, and what that does is it kind of can get rid of some weeds. It kind of kickstarts it, and it grows fresh. So
in the spring, not the fall. It gets
correct.
It gets a little hectic out there.
And that's why you'll see a lot of these burns and wonder why that's going on. That's usually part of your what they call mid-contract maintenance.
Okay.
So anyway, these acres, under extreme or unique circumstances, can be released for what's called emergency grazing. So farmers could go out and cut that for forage, hay, because the other crops are so short. So I believe right now it's on a case-by-case basis or region, but I have seen some of that being released. So it's kind of utilizing the assets that are in the area.
Do you guys still get paid for mowing the ditches or burning the ditches or any of that sort of thing? Is that still done, or?
I've never been approached.
Farmers used to do well. This has been quite a while. Of course, my reference point is always a long time ago. Well, the program you just described kind of sounds like government ground, where they would pay farmers. Say if they have if a farmer had a half section of ground, a quarter of that half.
That's a little different. What this ground I'm talking about, it's identified for conservation.
All right.
And I think what you're referring to is a program that was in I believe in the 80s, where they actually worked out a financial agreement between basically the government and the farmer, the grower, to take land out of production.
Yeah, that's what they did.
And then that was called government ground.
Yeah.
And were referred to commonly as government ground.
Right.
But that was actual crop ground that was idled. And that was and there's been actually some talk that maybe we need to relook at a program like that. Because there's been some the estimates, everything's an estimate right now. We don't know what this year's crop's going to be, but there's speculation, and there's talk that this corn crop especially we could be in a 3 billion bushel surplus.
Wow.
That's a lot of grain to chew through. So we're right now
Yes, it is.
You could argue that our current practices are over incentivizing production.
Right.
We're really good at growing crops. So you could argue that a different approach to try to lessen our burden of corn, that could be an option. That's something that you just don't do overnight. There's planning, and we're here in the next few weeks. I don't know how our co-ops and our seed dealers are going to handle this. That's still being kind of discussed, but we have what I always look to for is our field days. It's usually a good meal, and we get to see and listen to the agronomists talk about the different hybrids. If you're out in the country and you see these signs by the field, that's usually an advertisement of a particular hybrid. If you go by a what we call a plot, you might see 50 signs right in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are basically show plots where they're highlighting different hybrids and they're identifying those. So it's used for basically research, how those varieties do in that given area, and as a sales tool. So farmers can go and look at it. So I don't know. I've heard anything from they're going to do a recorded, basically a virtual tour to very small groups. Where sometimes our groups do get quite large. They might do them more locally and try to get the groups a little smaller. So I don't. But that time of year is coming. So we're already going to start making decisions for next year's crop. This is a weird time of the year because this year's crop isn't in the bin yet, and we're already starting to think about next year. So
what did you say about the second week of September?
I predict we'll see some wheels starting to turn, shortly after Labor Day.
Yeah.
So it's going to be here before you know it.
Oh, the whole year went by like a shot. Anyway,
so.
The older you get, the faster time moves, it seems.
But yeah, back to the CRP. There's kind of I think the program you're talking about was I remember it being referred to as government
ground, yeah.
And that was farm ground that was taken out for production reasons, not conservation reasons. The ground that along dredge ditches and waterways and such, that is put in because it's conservation minded.
Yeah,
and that's for your ditch bank erosion, buffer strips, things like that. We're trying to build a buffer between the waterways and our fields where our production's going on.
But to go back even further, in the 1960s, of course, the vernacular didn't change. It was government ground. But I believe farmers were paid to idle like 80 acres of ground, and it was just don't touch it or sow some cover crop or something.
Sure.
And that was an erosion conservation type of program, which...
And there's been a lot of different efforts over the years, to try to encourage conservation and different practices. And that's going on, currently too. It's kind of the different dialogue, some good, some bad in the last few years, with nitrates, and that seems to be the main topic right now. Phosphorus used to be a big topic, and we don't really hear a lot about phosphorus anymore. I think we've done a very good job of managing phosphorus runoff or leaving our farms, because that phosphorus was attached. Phosphorus only leaves when the soil leaves.
Right.
Phosphorus is attached to the soil. If you can contain the soil, you'll do a very good job of containing the phosphorus. The nitrates are kind of the elusive because they are also occurring naturally in the soil too. So, and there's no way to define what's a natural nitrate and what's a nitrate derived from farming either. So,
back in that time, 50 years ago, there was a big concern about erosion. And that's why they were doing a lot of these programs 50 years ago and more, because the Dust Bowl days hadn't been that far in the past, and there was concern by Iowa State people and others that when we were tearing down farmsteads, and we still are, I guess, that the wind was going to blow and we'd have a lot of erosion. Is erosion still a factor in your farm or in farming in general?
I don't view erosion around here very as much of a factor right now. The tool of choice back then also was the moldboard plow.
Yes, it was.
The moldboard plow probably in history was revered as one of the greatest tools to hit the prairies, and probably one of the worst tools to hit the prairies also.
That sucker dug deep, boy.
and it turned it black. So what we do now, it's we try to leave there's getting to be more and more what I would call no-till, not maybe in the sense of a purist in no-till. There's never anything done, but there's some hybrid things that are done. I see a lot of people they'll plant soybeans into standing corn stalks, but then even our tillage systems now, we try to incorporate a very high percentage of the residue on the surface, so it's not just the black dirt that's laying there that the wind can get a hold of and grab.
Yeah.
So it's a every farm is a little different. There's not a one size fits all, but most farmers that I know today, they are incorporating some version of anything, but there's still a few moldboard plows, and there's still a place for a moldboard plow.
Where's the place for a moldboard plow?
Maybe breaking sod, alfalfa ground, but it's not the mass acres like what we used to. I mean, I remember as a little boy, we had 2 plows, and my dad and my grandpa would spend all day long out there just plowing back and forth. It was slow going, but it definitely turned the fields black. And
did it ever? I remember back in the 70s, especially when there was a lot of conversation about erosion. Yeah, some of those farmers would really turn it black. Really deep in black.
So there's an instance that just the technology and the equipment changed and helped correct a problem. And like I said, the phosphorus we've done great strides on it. The nitrates, we're making good strides on them. There's a lot of progress that's being made. It's just. I don't think it's as quick as some people want, and it seems to be a moving target because there's so many natural nitrates already in the soil profiles, and then weather plays such a wild card in what goes on with nitrates. So it's a learning deal, and we're evolving and trying to do better every year.
Sure. What sort of plow do you use now?
I use a disc ripper. So it's a disc in the front. It's got a disc gang, and it's got some ripper teeth. We go about 10 to 12 inches on the ripper, and then it's a disc gang in the back to kind of level things out, and then incorporate a certain amount of residue.
All right, Steve Peters is our guest, and Steve, of course, is with the Webster County Farm Bureau. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Do you know, did the Webster County Fair go on or not? I missed it.
I believe there was.
Yes, there was so the kids got to show
the kids. The kids got a hybrid kind of.
They did.
Fair, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, they got to show their livestock that they've been working on, which is good. It's good. Of course, I'm usually out there for some races every now and then, so I don't go to the livestock shows as much as I used to. But Steve Peterson with the Webster County Farm Bureau will be back with Steve right after the news. It's 3 o'clock at KVFD Fort Dodge.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in North Central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Tropical storm creates havoc along the East Coast. I'm Salji in Grasso, Fox News. The East Coast is getting lashed by Isaias, spawning tornadoes, knocking down trees and power lines, causing flash floods, and causing at least 2 deaths at a mobile home park in Windsor, North Carolina. The National Hurricane Center is predicting heavy rain and more tornadoes as Isaias moves into New England into the evening hours and says flash flooding is possible in urban areas all along the Interstate 95 corridor. But at least one mayor in central New Jersey is breathing easier as the track of the storm continues to move further west.
The lesser the storm impact, the fewer calls for help and less chance for infection of COVID-19. And that's just a few more reasons why Scotch Plains Mayor Al Smith is thankful the forecast has improved.
When you get into that, it could be overtime that you have to pay just the worry about the residents and their safety, downed wires.
Just like cities, towns like his are watching the dollars too.
We are obviously running up, having expenses due to COVID, and we are preparing the proper paperwork to be reimbursed for it, but it has not been overwhelming for us right now.
In Scotch Plains, New Jersey, Rob Dawson, Fox News.
A huge explosion near the center of Beirut killed at least 10 people, injured hundreds, and sent shockwaves across the Lebanese capital today. It shattered windows and caused apartment balconies to collapse. The most powerful explosion to hit Beirut in years shook the ground, leaving some residents thinking an earthquake had struck. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar is urging Americans to do all they can to help slow the spread of coronavirus, including wearing a face covering.
It doesn't matter if you're in a small town in rural America. Wear face coverings, practice social distancing, use good personal hygiene. Don't go into bar settings that are overcrowded where you're not going to be able to do those things. Don't have family gatherings of large numbers of people at your house.
America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of four is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Hey, you should move over. Red right return.
Right, red right return.
No, just red right return because
No, I'm saying red right return, but then right to agree.
Okay, but you're on the...
I should have said correct. I know it's red right return, but...
You're on the left and it's red right return. Red right return.
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive has you covered as a leader in boat insurance. Get a quote today at Progressive.com.
Oh, I was on the left. Right.
Please stop talking.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Thousands of people forced from their homes because of a wildfire in Southern California.
Investigators determined the fire was caused by a malfunctioning diesel vehicle that spewed carbon from its exhaust system, sparking several fires on Friday. They say it happened in an unincorporated area about 85 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. Those flames exploded into the massive Apple fire. This fire is 7% contained. However, about 8,000 people are still under mandatory evacuation. One injury has been reported and 5 structures have been destroyed, including one home.
That's Fox's Christina Coleman. The top prosecutor in St. Louis is facing a primary challenge after drawing criticism from President Trump for filing charges against a couple who displayed guns at protesters marching near their home. Kim Gardner is the city's first black circuit attorney. She's being challenged in the Democrat primary by Mary Pat Carl, who is white and once served as the city's lead homicide prosecutor. A Massachusetts court ends the use of a word claiming it started as a racist practice.
A Massachusetts appeals court decides it will not use the term grandfathering any longer in its decisions, citing its origin in post-Civil War laws that prevented black people from voting. These days, a grandfather clause, or grandfathering, is a provision that allows an old rule to apply to an existing situation, while a new rule would apply to future cases. The 3-judge panel arrived at the decision to drop the word during a case involving a zoning feud between 2 neighbors in Gloucester. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
European Union regulators say they're opening an in-depth investigation into Google's plan to buy fitness tracking device maker Fitbit. The EU's Executive Commission saying today it's concerned the deal would entrench Google's position in the online ad market by increasing the already vast amount of data that the company could use to personalize ads. I'm Sal Gianfrasso, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with 1 count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 on unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake in the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Nemani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The Public Defender's Office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named all-league selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with highs around 75. Winds out of the east around 5 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows dip down to about 52. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 78. Low 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered storms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 74.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor, brought to you by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing emergencies don't usually happen during normal business hours, so Riley Armstrong is here for you 24/7. Call 955-2232. And the Fort Museum in Frontier Village, where history comes alive. Travel back in time and celebrate the heritage of Fort Dodge at the Fort Museum. Book your next special event at the Opera House, too. When severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. It's 10 minutes after 3 o'clock. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau's helping you.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. With us is Steve Peterson, past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, current member, of course. We talked a little bit last week about something, well, kind of disturbing, that people were, people were getting packets of seeds in the mail.
Yes, it's not a hoax. It's the real thing.
Nobody knows where they're coming from.
They're labeled that they're coming from China. The Iowa Department of Agriculture has put out a notice that evidently some of these are now showing up in Iowa. They were showing up, I think, in 8 states last week, but that's continued to expand. I believe, I couldn't confirm, but I did read that they're starting to analyze some of these seeds, and they're nothing good. A lot of them are noxious weeds. They serve no purpose.
Packages of noxious weeds.
They serve no purpose. It's not like you're getting pumpkins and squash in the mail. It looks to be no good. They are still, if you do receive a strange package, and some of the packages are mislabeled that they would contain jewelry. I believe they said they've been white envelopes and yellow envelopes with your address and a return address of a foreign city in China, and but you're to report those to locally. I would probably call the USDA here locally. They could point you in the right direction, but the Iowa Department of Agriculture in Des Moines, they definitely want to see it and hear about it. So don't open them, don't plant them. You can get a hold of somebody.
I really think China and some of our enemies think this is a time when our country is really shaky, and they're right, of course. Have all this political turbulence and all this nonsense going on and on. So they're just going to contribute to it with little nonsense like this.
There has been no case made to why this is happening or what the motivation for it is. A lot of speculation, of course, but it's concerning. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this at some point. But again, if you do get a strange package, don't open it.
Don't open that sucker.
Don't open it, and get a hold. Again, I don't have the phone number with me, but I'm sure you could call Iowa State Extension or Don't open it and get a hold of somebody, and we'll get handled the proper way.
Excellent. All right, Steve Peterson is our guest, and let's. It's just a different world. I admit I'm getting older.
You think you've heard it all, and then
you really do.
And then it's what's next? It's
craziness.
It's complete craziness. On the other hand, China, we signed that Chinese Phase 1 trade deal here last spring.
Right.
We thought that was going to right the world and everything go on, and China made some very, very large commitments. And they have been, at this point, there's a lot of speculation that China will fulfill the promises they made on the purchases, which were very lofty goals. But there's some optimism that they will hit this. I believe on Friday, China made the 3rd largest purchase of U.S. corn ever, I believe in the sales history of corn sales out of the United States. It was all, just a little over 1.9 million metric tons. That's a big buy of corn. And 2 weeks or in the week prior to that, they did I think a little over 1.7 million metric tons. So they've been in the market aggressively buying. In the month of July, we sold about 281 million bushels of corn in the United States. That's a big number. That's, I believe, a record for July, and that, I think, record would stand for a few decades. So, however, the market has still been patient because a lot of this is factored in. China has to buy some of this. So while these sales are encouraging, it's frustrating as a producer to see no effect on the market.
Yeah, that is unusual.
The market,
how can that be?
It's the markets are all driven by traders and speculation, and a lot of this is baked in the proverbial cake, and it's expected that these numbers be sold in order to hit this path. So we're in a time of year when a lot of the private firms, when I say they're private grain trading firms, they go out and they do some sampling of their customer bases and try to get some feel for what yields are out there. There's a lot of speculation on that. In the coming weeks, I know there's going to what they call crop tours, and there's a pro farmer tour. They go basically start on each end of the corn belt and work in, and it's a very orchestrated and kind of, it's just an effort. It's got a little credibility because they pretty much do the same methodology year after year. But a lot of private firms come up with their numbers. There's been some starting to be floated out. And basically what it gets down to, what's the national yield going to be and the acres and, how this is going to work. So they're plugging some numbers in that are kind of scary as far as carryouts. We could exceed 3 billion bushels of extra corn. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. So it's going to
be. Yes, that is a lot.
Exports are going to be critical. Something domestically, I know Senator Ernst is still pounding away at it, but it seems like a very uphill battle is ethanol. These RIN waivers, I know there's supposedly going to be some guidance released from the EPA on what they're going to do with some of these waivers, and the courts have ruled, and I'm sure those will be challenged in court. But, we really, as a domestic program, I think we can do better than what we're doing. It just seems that way.
Man, you would think so. And this is an election year. I talked with Senator Chuck Grassley here last week, and, he pretty much told me that the Democrats, and he said he was quoting Chuck Schumer. I don't remember the exact quote, but Schumer told a prominent Republican, we're just not going to do anything to pass any bill that would make Trump look good to his constituents.
Right.
They're just not going to do it. And that's the kind of people they are.
And, and that kind of then starts bleeding off, as a farmer, I'm sitting here looking, farming, we never know what's going to happen. We don't know what our yield's going to be. We don't really know what our prices are going to be. And the unknown is sometimes the worst enemy, and can have a huge volatility effect on what we do. But the election, we don't know what's going to happen there. You can speculate of what happens in different scenarios of different people being elected. What's going to happen with China. I think personally, China right now, our corn, our dollar has devalued, and you have to follow these world currencies and whatnot, but our dollar has devalued, which makes the American, our corn, our wheat, our soybeans, a very good buy on the world market. It's a good thing China's buying because they're getting a good deal because our dollar is not worth as much right now. So business-wise, they're making good purchases. But we need to be selling that also. So, in some sense too, China probably is. I mean, they're not naive. They know a presidential election is going to happen. You can speculate of what the relationship of the United States would be with whoever is going to sit in the Oval Office. We don't really know. I mean, well, I guess we have a better idea of probably the President Trump's stance than we do a Biden administration, but that plays into what we do as farmers and going forward. But we have to have a robust foreign trade on our grains.
Yes, we do. Well, Joe Biden and Barack Obama and most of the Democratic Party were globalists. That's not it doesn't endear them to me necessarily, but Obama wanted TPP, and I know most of the farmers were in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Act. Weren't you?
I think, yeah. Because it opened up
the markets, more markets.
It was more markets. On the flip side, though, this administration has been more aggressive about unilateral trade agreements than it seems like many people have been interested in doing that before. His style is he would rather hammer them out individually.
Yeah.
The TPP was more of a blanket approach. I think if you can get results, either one would work good. As far as agricultural trade, I mean, we're fortunate. Agriculture is needed in the world. We need.
Yeah,
food.
I guess so.
Food.
We need food. Yes, we do.
It's vitally important.
I like it. I like food. Yes.
But so there's, I guess, a different approach. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. The TPP, though, I think had some advantages because it blanketed a lot of markets at one time. It appears, though, that we've been pecking away at these little trade deals. I know we had a big one with Korea. We got one with Japan. China, we're on the path. India, I know they tried. India is a very tough market to get into. I think the last one I just read, they did one with Kenya.
Kenya, really?
So I mean, they're actively. They're actively out there trying to pursue individual. Another one that's going to be, I think, the way I understand it, we are off limits to negotiate with them is Great Britain till after this date passes this winter. I think it's in December, and that has to do with the European Union split.
Right. They want to. Right.
There's some mechanics in that agreement, but as soon as that date passes, well, I'm sure we'll miraculously have something to present, because I'm assuming they're working behind the scenes. But both with the European Union and Great Britain, there's two huge potential markets to get into there. So,
well, I will cheer the day that Britain finally breaks away from the European Union. The people of Great Britain overwhelmingly voted twice to break that agreement. They were afraid they would lose their national identity. I think they were probably right. Identity is important to people.
I think, and again, I have never been to Britain. From what I've understood of it, I think what really accelerated this was the immigration. Some of the immigration that the European Union was allowing. And by being in the EU, they had to accept the terms of the EU's immigration agreements, which they felt was diluting their country. I think is kind of a nice way to say it. But yeah, Great Britain, European Union is going to be a potential for some good trading partners. The European Union has been a challenge in the past with GMOs, genetically modified grain, but it seems that they have been easing those restrictions over time. And I think they're finally wanting, and what we're pushing is to go to a science-based science-based facts, and there is no science that states that GMOs are not healthy and are not safe. So I think
Isn't that remarkable? We have to remember that the number one person in this country, and he's influential around the world, is a man by the name of Jeffrey Smith. Now, Jeffrey Smith is a former ballroom dance instructor and flying yoga instructor over at Fairfield, a yogic flying instructor. Those are his qualifications to write papers and books condemning GMOs. And people eat them up. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a book salesman at best.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
There's no science, anywhere that would prove that any of it's harmful or
absolutely not.
And I think a lot of people they don't understand it, which is why it's very easy to sell them that it's fearful. The technology and what they've done, it's genetically modifying basically has been going on for a long, long time,
And it will continue.
Sure.
I mean, Norman Borlaug saved millions of lives. Millions of lives.
What has happened now with technology is they can go into the genome of a plant and they can identify exactly the traits they want and exactly the traits they don't want. And
yes.
they can do now in a matter of months what used to take years, and rapidly accelerate these plants and the traits that they express. And and a year like this where we're challenged in conditions, with rainfall or whatnot, all the hybrids I have on my farm have an extremely high drought score. That's something that's been bred into those plants. This is not the same plant my grandfather planted, 70 years ago. Those hybrids would have fell on their face by now. And these hybrids continue to, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do with the water, but there's things that they can do now to identify and take into places. When they were talking to drought, I remember when this came up. Well, the drought stuff really wasn't designed to be in this market because we got rainfall usually.
Mm-hmm.
We're just benefiting from it now that it's in there. It's really designed for places like Kansas where they got to irrigate because irrigation is very expensive. It's designed to go into markets in Africa where where there's not a lot of rainfall. That's where a lot of this stuff is designed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we just happen to benefit from a lot of this technology and products that they've developed.
And one of the premier weed killers is glyphosate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of parasites out in California who call themselves lawyers that keep trying to tell us that glyphosate causes cancer. There's no real information on that, by the way. But
only in California.
Only in California. Well, there were 5 lawsuits, all in California.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll go through a court system, but it seems to be taking a long time. The 9th District, of course, is going to back up California. But I hope that real science can be used and toss this whole glyphosate thing right out the window because, there's lawyers on television saying that Monsanto or whoever, or Bayer now, set aside all this money. So just come and get it, courtesy of us.
And I believe Bayer's they're proposing a huge settlement just to make this thing go away. And
I hope that means we don't have to stop using glyphosate, or does it?
I don't think my impression is that they just want it to go away. It's not that they're admitting guilt or anything like that.
Well, that's the way businesses usually solve problems with money.
Right.
All right, it's a nuisance lawsuit. Take this money and get out.
Yes.
And that happens all the time.
It does.
And that's bread and butter for lawyers, by the way.
Right. And unfortunately, in agriculture, some of these lawsuits and some of this stuff, if it gets to be the norm, some of these companies might not be willing to invest in the research looking forward.
Why would they?
It could hurt us in the long run of trying to develop, and improve these crops we have. Because what companies want to put that money in and then just get hammered with lawsuits for eternity afterwards?
Yeah, well, we've been trying to. I know my friend Nevin Mulholland and others out in Radio Land don't want to hear me say this, but at some point, we got to rein in these lawsuits. Because, of course, the trial lawyers are a key part of the Democratic Party constituency, and they don't want that to happen. So, that's their bread and butter. Frankly, it is. Anyway, Steve Peters has been our guest in this portion of the program, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Did we miss anything, Steve?
I don't think so.
All right, Steve Peters has been our guest, and he'll be back next week. The news is next.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
It's 3:29.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dart Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with one count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake and the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Namani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The public defender's office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named all-league selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with highs around 75. Winds out of the east around 5 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows dip down to about 52. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 78. Low 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered storms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 74.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 9 1/4 at 308 1/4. December down 8 1/4 at 320 1/4. March down 8 cents at 332 1/4. May down 7 3/4 at 340 1/4. August soybeans down 13 3/4 at 883 3/4. September down 13 1/4 at 879 3/4. November down 14 1/2 at 881 3/4. January down 13 3/4 at 888. September wheat down 12 3/4 at 508 1/4. Soybean meal down 340 a ton at 283.70. August live cattle down 75 cents at 102.27. October down 80 at 107.47. August feeders down 17 at 144.70. September down 45 at 146.62. August lean hogs down 17 cents at 49.70. October up 62 at 49.02. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Summer is the season for wild berries. Hi, I'm Julie Harker, and this is Healthy Living on Brownfield. One of the most popular wild berries is the blackberry, and they grow among thorns. Wear long pants and long sleeves when picking them. Other wild berries that are a summer favorite are mulberries from the mulberry tree. Their fruit is dark and juicy and kind of look like blackberries, but there are no thorns involved. In fact, you can put a blanket or cloth under the tree and give the limbs a good shake to get the mulberries to the ground. You'll have to compete with wild birds and animals for these berries because they love them, but there are often plenty to go around. Now, with gooseberries, when they're unripe and still green, they're used for pies. When the gooseberry ripens, though, it's red and sweet and quickly consumed by birds. Blackberries and mulberries are also great for pies and cobblers. All of these wild berries are good for you, rich in antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins C and K. The Missouri Department of Conservation says it's important to make sure you know exactly the berries you're picking so they're not confused with something poisonous. And ask permission from landowners whose berries are on private property. Sharing with them is a good way to spread out the harvest. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Here's Active Health patient Carol Main.
I was having a lot of knee pain, and my doctor said I needed a total knee replacement. Then I heard about Active Health Clinic's alternative options for arthritis surgery. Just one simple injection in a 30-minute procedure sounded promising, so I had it done and noticed improvement in my knee within a few days. Now, 6 months later, I'm back to full use of my knee with no pain at all.
Don't settle for surgery. For your free consultation, call Active Health Clinics, Fort Dodge today.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, and with me is Charles Clayton of APHIS, and I welcome Charles to the program once again. And I wanted to follow up with Charles after last Thursday's discussion that we had with Mr. Clayton, Mayor Bemrick, and the Chief of Police, Roger Porter. Whatever we've been doing for black kids in Fort Dodge hasn't been working completely. Now, you've started APHIS, and you started that how many years ago?
We actually started in 2004.
God, that long ago already?
It's been that long, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
well, that's been inspirational.
Yes, it has.
That's. I think we need to do bigger things. I don't think we, and you know I feel this way. I don't think we need to do things that make white liberal people feel better. By that I mean we should put our money where our mouth is. We should have training at Iowa Central free to young people. I mean, 100 years ago, we knew that we had to have free education, public education, through high school.
Yes.
And this is the 21st century. You know, it's the 21st century, and it's a very specialized world. So if you're a black kid especially, and I don't mean to presume to speak for black kids, but I can speak for poor kids because I was one. If your opportunities are completely limited in life, or you think you have no opportunities, I mean, that can't be. No matter how many well-meaning white people we have. You following me here?
Yep.
And I'm going to let you talk because I'm not really doing it that way. But how many well-meaning white people we want to have throw some money at it, it's not going to be the case. Yeah, who am I on the air with here?
This is Jim Kirsten.
Jim Kirsten, didn't you say you were going to call at 440?
Oh, I thought you said you're calling now. I can call back. I'll call back.
Thank you very much, Jim, because I do want to talk to you. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Kirsten about what we're trying to talk about now. But anyway, you and the mayor, and I'll put my feelings aside for a minute because I do feel very strongly on this. We just can't keep grinding kids up in poverty and despair. You and the mayor and others have come up with a plan, and would you describe that plan?
Well, actually, we've been talking for over a year now. I think, like you kind of just mentioned, we got to do more, and I just thought, APHIS has been at this for a while now. We've had some small successes, I think, but we need to maybe up the ante and do more. So reached out to Fort Dodge Schools about doing a program to help with students in school a little bit more and stop even more kids from falling through the cracks or getting suspended, expelled. Police called on them, then talked to the chief of police about taking that same program to the streets and stopping kids from getting arrested early in life, stopping kids from going before a judge, getting handcuffed, getting something on their record that maybe when they were young and foolish that shouldn't stop them from other opportunities later in life. The college jumped on board with what we wanted to do. The hospital, Unity Point, has jumped on board, and a lot of things are going on, from diversion and intervention programs to a week-long training here in Fort Dodge to a possible cultural training center we want to have here in Fort Dodge, through just ongoing dialogue and conversation. So we've got a lot of things that we have been working on with key leaders around the community.
You know, Charles, I know white people pretty well, being a white person.
Do you? They actually talk to
you? I'll tell you what. The efforts made now by protesters in the street may accomplish some change in the short term. It will not last. If anybody thinks that major cities are going to truly defund police departments, they're wrong. And mainly the same white people are going out there saying right on and screaming Black Lives Matter. Just in a year or two are going to be screaming we need more police protection. So I don't want to cut down on the energy of the movement. But at the same token, we need something real, concrete and real.
Well, with the movement, I think that you got to think strategically. You got to think long term. You got to think what's next. And I also think in a real screwed way, the movement has gotten hijacked.
That too.
I don't think that the focus is where it originally was. But my thinking locally was, what's next? How can Fort Dodge prepare itself for the next time this happens? Because there will be a next time.
Certainly.
And are we going to move the bar forward? Are we going to keep the bar in the same spot? Are we going to hold our breaths and hope it don't happen? When it happens, we're going to hold our breath and hope our community doesn't explode. Are we going to take real steps to put some policies and practices, things into place to educate everyone more and give everybody more of an equal playing field and bring groups together that maybe don't normally talk together? Like, the what's next is big for me in this moment right now, because we're going to face this same challenge very shortly. It's going to happen again. What are we really doing? Are we making a real difference, or is it a knee-jerk reaction and anger and emotions that are taking control?
Well, I was surprised to hear, I wasn't real surprised, but I was surprised to hear the organizers of the Portland thing.
Yes.
Mainly middle-aged white women with college degrees. What are you old girls doing out there, for God's sake, you know? What's the problem in your life? Well, they're out there screaming and hollering because they feel bad.
Yes.
Well, that's too bad. You know, try living in poverty for your entire life. Try having generational poverty as a real thing in your life.
And some of them may have grown up with poverty, but I just think that
not the majority.
There's a time now that we have to start thinking, how are we actually going to bring everybody together and build bridges? Because the other problem with social justice, and when you bring the Black Lives Matters move into it, someone has done a really good job of getting all the social justice groups, Black Lives Matter, immigration, Me Too movement, to constantly compete for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And we're never all working together collectively.
That's right.
And I think for real social justice, everyone has to get on the same page collectively and not let the media or whoever it be keep choosing who's the headlines and fight for attention and never really gain any ground, because we start worrying about me, maybe a little too much, versus are we really thinking about the whole social good, the social justice aspect of it?
You know, reparations has been mentioned repeatedly, and some white politicians are in favor of them, but that just sounds like they're going to throw more money at the problem, Charles. You know what I'm talking about? Here's some money. We'll distribute it to community leaders, and then we're going to absolve ourselves and just walk away.
Reparations, to me, without repentance, is a waste of time.
Thank you.
You have to ask for repentance for God to forgive you. You have to ask for repentance for someone to take your apology serious. If there's not going to be a repentance of the heart and the soul, then reparations aren't going to do any darn good. We need to work on maybe repentance first before we ever start talking about reparations.
Who should make the repentance? Because we talked the last time you were on that
yes.
there are problems in the black community,
yes.
in the culture of the black community in Fort Dodge,
yes.
that should be addressed, or this generational poverty and frankly generations of the same family going to prison
yes.
Will just continue. That kills me. I hate that.
It depends on who you're asking for forgiveness. If you're asking for repentance from the white community, that's who needs to repent. If the black community take a look in the mirror and talk about how they can move forward, they need to repent with each other. If you're talking about law enforcement, they need to repent. There's never been, I don't think, in America, a true, again, just repentance, as there's been a coming together to just really cleanse that soul and that heart and ask for understanding and forgiveness. I just don't think you start with all these other things before you start with people's heart.
You're saying it a lot better than I ever have, and I've been screaming about middle-class white liberals.
Well, that's because I'm just more educated than you.
No, I don't know. I'm a better basketball player, so there we go. There we go. But we must realize that the problem did originate with slavery.
Yes.
And the generations of poverty that came after the Civil War. And the racism that held blacks, African-American people. Is that such a big deal to be called black or African-American, or am I off on this?
I don't know. Charles Clayton prefers to be called black. Other people might prefer to be called African-American. I don't get caught up on it. There's more important things in my life to worry about than that. So
Anyway, we must understand and recognize, and that we bear some responsibility for this, and really commit ourselves to change over years. This isn't going to be solved by a riot in Portland.
No.
This isn't going to be solved by sending that idiot cop to prison, which was where he belongs, up in Minneapolis, by the way. We have to commit ourselves to many, many years of understanding each other and talking sometimes bluntly with each other, and not acting. There is a tendency in the white community to blame other white people. I'm not that way at all. You other white people are that way, and I'm here to lecture you. Well, yeah.
Kind of like when you blame the liberals.
Like what?
Kind of like when you blame the liberals.
Yes.
Kind of like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they are at fault. But and frankly, Charles, again, what I'm blaming is what you just described. And then liberal people usually do that. White liberal people usually come forward with some emotion and some apologies and some pointing fingers at other people, other white people, about where the responsibility lies. Then everybody goes home. I don't want to see that. In my awkward way, or whatever you want to call this, I want us to wake up to the long-term damage that was done, and the long term that it's going to take to unwind it. Yeah, I'll be long dead. You will be too.
That's too scary for most people. Most people don't want to wake up to that because it's too scary. It's too uncomfortable. And
it's not for me.
Most people don't want to do that. We've gotten very comfortable in shifting blame and focus and not taking accountability in America. Everybody. We shift blame and focus, and we don't hold anybody accountable, not even ourselves.
Well, again, I'm not, last thing I'm going to do is suck up to Charles Clayton here. But when I came in here, I put a poster of Malcolm X on my wall over here. And it's a quote from Malcolm X, who I admired, not because of his politics necessarily, but because of his emphasis on the truth. And let me repeat the quote to you again. I've read it many years. Malcolm X said while he was still living, "I believe that there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those who do the oppressing. I believe that there will be a clash between those who want freedom, justice, and equality, and everyone, and those who want to continue the system of exploitation. I believe," this is the key sentence, "I believe that there will be that kind of clash, but I don't think it will be based on the color of anyone's skin." That makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, it does.
I mean, black people exploit black people. White people exploit white people.
Yes.
There's exploitation is our problem.
Yes.
Exploitation. And not wanting to be uncomfortable. Or commit ourselves to a problem, as you say, that's just going to come back to haunt us time and time and time again.
Until we change people's mindset, people's hearts, until we change the way people view things or are educated on certain things, it's going to keep coming back. Like this is a long journey. This isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And a lot of people don't want to join a marathon.
That's right. That's right.
They would rather take the jog around the block or even run a sprint. But we need people to join on this marathon, and we need people to commit to it, because it's going to take all of us running this thing.
Drop your political identity as as a liberal or a conservative or whatever the hell it is, and let's address this problem together.
Yes.
I think we're held hostage sometimes by the two-party system. We need to get away from this whole, well, I'm not going to work with him or her or whatever because they're this, that, or the other thing. Yes, they think differently than you. So what? They might even like the Minnesota Twins rather than the Chicago Cubs, which I think is really weird. But we need to address this problem, not for any other reason than we are human beings who do not want to see other human beings suffer. And I don't want to see other human beings suffer this way anymore. I don't want to see people living in abject poverty or scorned because of who they are.
Or giving up hope.
That's
how do kids at a very young age, or families, how does a parent give up hope on their child? Like we're living in a society, in a world right now where kids don't have hope, parents don't have hope for their kids. Like, how are we without hope? I mean, that's what it comes down to me, and that's one of the major things behind us starting APHIS is like, man, you got to restore hope in kids. You got to restore hope in parents that their kid can make it. And how are we at a point that some of us have so much to throw away and waste that other people are without any hope?
That's the terrible thing I've seen over and over again. I don't want to seem self-serving by saying that, but I've seen so many kids when they're 14 or 15 years old and they're gone. You can't get them back by that age.
Yep.
They're back, they're gone, and they're preparing for a career in and out of prison.
Yes, yes. Or fighting drug abuse or alcohol abuse the rest of their life.
Things.
They're by 14, 15, if not younger.
So let's talk just a little bit about this program that you and the mayor and chief of police are working on. How can we get this started and moving? The week-long training, we should have some advertisement out soon to businesses and to other individuals, professionals in the community that we are going to host. That is going to be October 19th through the 23rd. Those will be the dates of that training. And again, we're going to look at things from a poverty perspective, cultural perspective, racial perspective, listening perspective, policies and procedures and practices that Fort Dodge can implement. And then we've got the larger goal after that also to make maybe a center that'll deal with these issues for our area, and Iowa Central is very much behind that. But I guess in a smaller scale, how people can help is take a challenge to get uncomfortable. Take a challenge yourself to talk with someone else that may be a different color or race than you, that may be of a different political background than you, a different religious background than you. Start crossing those lines and having some conversations for the sake of not boasting your own ideologies, but just maybe to listen. Maybe that's where we start. We got to think big, though, Charles. We got to think big.
You'll never get to the big things if we don't take care of the little things.
You're right.
You know, sometimes we think we've done something real gigantic and big, and we totally missed the boat.
Yeah. How much smarter than you do you think I am, anyway?
You know, I've thought about that long and hard. And me and Manuel Mosley was actually talking about this.
Mosley, my man.
And we kind of decided out of the three of us, you probably would come in last. So.
Well, it could be. Could be. Manuel is, boy, I love that.
I know he's dear to you. That's why I bring him up.
He is dear to me. His family is dear to me. And I saw his brother Jerry a while back, and who I hadn't seen for a long time. But, you know, those kids grew up in poverty, you know. And really because of Manuel and his family, I've had it with this crap. I've just
seen it firsthand.
Yes,
yep.
And I've seen it for years.
Yes,
years and years and years. So yeah, well, I'd say I was going to whip on Manuel for that, but
good luck with that.
Yeah,
huh?
Good luck with that. Yeah,
he's pretty strong.
Oh God, him and some other young men were, and I knew a couple of them were working over in the Y, and they were doing bench flies with 110 pounds.
Yeah.
Yowza. Anyway, Charles Clayton, thanks for being here.
Yep, thanks, sir.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents. And Doug.
Breathe out and repeat after me. Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Your bird is eating my candles.
Your bird is eating my candles.
No, seriously, he's making a mess.
No, seriously, he's...
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Get a customized quote at libertymutual.com.
If you're in debt to the IRS, there's good news. Optima Tax Relief can help you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Optima's award-winning team works with you online and over the phone, so you don't have to leave the comfort of your home to put your tax problems to rest. Optima's A-plus rated with the Better Business Bureau and standing by ready to help you today. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-386-9945. 800-386-9945.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The storm marches northward. I'm Sal Giangrasso, Fox News. The eastern seaboard took a lashing from Tropical Storm Isaias from the Carolinas right through cities like Philadelphia and Atlantic City, right into the Big Apple.
We are learning here in New York City of one possible death related to this storm. And again, we are watching the storm move further north tonight, so it's expected to move along toward Maine. So some of those areas also that far north seeing potential storm warnings. Of course, tornadoes, also warnings in effect until 9 p.m. tonight.
That's Fox's Alex Hogan. Now here's a look at the storm's expected track from Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz.
This is going to be the path as we head through the evening hours, running through upstate New York, and you're going to see this across a large area in New England. The very heavy rain, the wind still at 65 miles an hour, and then of course this is a lot of moisture with it, so flooding could still be an issue. Northern Pennsylvania through New York up into portions of New England, all spots where you could still see 4 to 6 inches of rain. It's the kind of thing that folks saw back across portions of the mid-Atlantic.
At least 2 people were killed, several more missing after one of those tornadoes flattened a mobile home park in Windsor, North Carolina. A huge explosion rocked Beirut, inflicting hundreds of injuries and damaging buildings in a wide area around the city's port. Speaking at a Tuesday briefing, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany delivered initial remarks about the explosion.
We're tracking it closely, and just rest assured that we're taking a very good look at that.
Lebanon's health minister said at least 50 people were killed and over 2,700 injured in the blast at the Beirut port area. Wall Street ended higher in an up-and-down session. The Dow ended with a solid 164-point gain, with a more modest advance for the Nasdaq and S&P. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20, so switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text from Pure Talk USA.
Land ho! hey, seriously, land ho, guys. Guys, land ho! Land ho! Land ho! Right there!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered with Sign and Glide on-water towing. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
I gotta say, this land ho thing, not very effective.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Sign and Glide coverage is subject to policy terms.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz discussing President Trump's push to stop mail-in balloting over claims of voter fraud.
When it comes to elections, we want elections to be safe. We want them to be secure. We want that when you go and cast a vote, that vote count and that the integrity of the election be protected.
President Trump is filing a lawsuit against the state of Nevada after it enacted a new law providing mail-in ballots to all voters. There's no evidence of widespread fraud linked to mail-in ballots, but concern about potential abuses. More states are moving to mail-in ballots to protect poll workers and voters from coronavirus. In South Korea, 14 people killed, more than 1,000 people forced from their homes as 42 days of rain triggered floods and mudslides. It's South Korea's largest monsoon in 7 years. Heavy rain, which has also battered China, Thailand, Myanmar, and India in recent days, inundated farmland and flooded parts of major highways and bridges in the South Korean capital of Seoul. British authorities picking up part of the tab as the country promotes restaurant dining during the pandemic.
From this week, diners at thousands of restaurants, cafes and pubs across Britain can enjoy half-price meals. For 3 days each week throughout August, the UK government is picking up 50% of the tab, up to a limit of $13 a head. It's an effort to drive up business in an industry that was hit hard by a 3-month coronavirus shutdown over the spring. The government says it expects the scheme to cost $650 million. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
Nearly 2 months after reopening after coronavirus closures, Universal Orlando is laying off an undisclosed number of employees. A rep says the theme park is slashing its workforce to reflect current priorities and needs. Universal Orlando was the first of Orlando's major theme park operators to reopen when it welcomed back visitors in early June. I'm Salgi Ingresso, and this is Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dart Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with 1 count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake in the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Nemani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The Public Defender's Office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named All-League selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with highs around 75. Winds out of the east around 5 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows dip down to about 52. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 78. Low 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered storms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 75.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
Hey guys, this is Larry King. Are you sick and tired of prostate pills that don't work? I've got great news for you. I had prostate problems that were driving me nuts. I tried several different natural products. None of them worked. One day I heard about Prostagenics. It beat over 157 other prostate supplements in independent lab tests and was rated #1 most powerful prostate supplement in the world. So I got some Prostagenics and boy, am I glad I did. Now my prostate troubles are a thing of the past. I sleep like a champ. I feel like I did 20 years ago. Do yourself a huge favor. Do what I did and get yourself some Prostagenics.
Prostagenics comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can order absolutely risk-free. So go online or call 800-600-2020. 800-600-2020. If you call in the next 6 minutes, you can get a free bottle with a Larry King TV special. 800-600-2020.
Pick up the phone right now.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, and with me now is a Doctor of Economics at Southern Methodist University. He is Dr. Dean Stansel. How are you, Dean?
I'm doing great, Michael. How about you?
Of course, Dr. Stansel has been a long-time contributor to the program, and we're certainly privileged to have him on the air with us. Dr. Stansel is also with the O'Neill Center. What is the O'Neill Center again, sir?
The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is at the Cox Business School at SMU in Dallas. It was established by one of our alums, William O'Neill, who is the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. And our focus is studying the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. We're at o'neillcenter.org. That's spelled O-N-E-I-L.
Dr. Stansel, of course, is a libertarian, but every now and then he starts sounding like Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein of California. And this is one of those times. So we've got to bring Dr. Stansel back from the abyss. He also, in this particular instance, he sounds like Feinstein and Pelosi in regard to immigration and any Republican anywhere when they're talking about their workers. In the Wall Street Journal opinion section, and, of course, Dr. Stansel sends me 3, 4, or sometimes 5 pieces for discussion. And I'm a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal. I agree practically with everything that I see on their opinion page. It's well written, well thought out, unlike most liberal publications who just bleed. But what we're talking about here is a study, first of all, by Yale economists. Now, this is the big leagues here. Oh, my God, Ivy League school, one of the big ones. Yale economists tell us that the $600 federal enhancement to jobless benefits hasn't affected the incentive to work. But, and here's the key sentence, the study offers limited evidence of this conclusion, which is contradicted by other data and real-world evidence. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, working people really are lazy if you give them some sort of compensation to get through the COVID virus. Is that what you're trying to say here, Dean, or what's up?
No, I would phrase it differently.
I bet you would.
So one of the first things you learn in an economics class is the basic idea that incentives matter, right? And changes in incentives tend to have effects on behavior. And so when the Congress hastily threw together this first relief bill back in, I guess it was March or April, and wanted to give a bonus to the state-run unemployment compensation program, they wanted to do it quickly, I guess. I can't really defend the decision. I think it was very poorly done. But they decided to go with a one-size-fits-all $600 per week bonus that they lump on top of whatever the state's already given. And again, this is a state-run program. States already had these in place. to provide unemployment compensation payments to the unemployed. And they were putting basically the equivalent of a $15 an hour or 40 hours a week check in the hands of everyone who's unemployed. Now, that expired on the 31st, so that was just last week. But so this Wall Street Journal editorial is in reference to a working paper. I don't think it's anything published yet. That came out that these guys looked at some data, and as the editorial explains, there's some flaws in how they do it. But largely, I think what it points to is that economic research, when you're talking about statistical analysis, is kind of like medical research when you're talking about statistical analysis, in the sense that it can be highly flawed. Right? You can find one finding today, and then next week someone else looking at a similar set of data will find the opposite. So I would just say we probably put too much emphasis and value on individual work. What we need to do is look at the totality and kind of the overall trends of work in this area. And this is an outlier. So of course, people who have an agenda that supports continuing these $600 a week benefits latched onto this and said, look at what these guys found. It's just like the minimum wage stuff. It's been probably almost 20 years now, that maybe longer. That a couple of economists did a study of New Jersey fast food restaurants, and they found, lo and behold, that you can raise the minimum wage, and it didn't reduce employment, which is contradictory to what supply and demand tells you, contradictory to what a basic economics textbook will tell you. Well, it turns out that they had grad students making the phone calls to ask whoever answered the phone, how many people you had working, and they had a different person calling back, not necessarily talking to the same person. So the data was flawed, and I've gone on long enough, I suppose. But I'd say the same thing with this one, that we should take it with a grain of salt. There's lots of anecdotal evidence. This article talks about how Honda had to, because they were having a hard time getting their assembly line workers to come back, they offered their office employees a job. Some of those guys who worked to come and work on the assembly line.
Well, it's about time they got out of their air-conditioned offices and learned what work really was. This is a positive. It's a learning experience. Dr. Dean Stansel is our guest. He's with Southern Methodist University. He's an economist, of course. I would say that this is apocryphal. I shouldn't say apocryphal, but it's anecdotal that we can cherry pick these incidents around the country that prove the author's point, and that workers would rather stay home than work as long as they can stay on unemployment and that sort of thing. I'm sure there are a larger number of incidents, Dean. I'm going to throw this out to you. A larger number of incidents around the country where people have lost their jobs. A lot of people work for small businesses. A lot of small businesses are either not open or they've greatly reduced their staff, may never reopen. And their former employers are out of work with no real expectation of things turning around, at least not in the state of Iowa and across the Midwest. They're not looking at any realistic expectation for things to turn around anytime soon. This is a real crisis we're in. Are you sure the free market's the solution?
Always.
As soon as I asked that question, I knew I was wrong.
You knew the answer. Well, but look, this is essentially a self-imposed recession. Now, granted, the pandemic is something that is kind of a unexpected crisis, catastrophe, but the way that we've approached dealing with it is something that was chosen essentially by politicians and bureaucrats, and we could have done differently in a way that would have done less damage to these businesses. In fact, way back in March, there was I'm sure we mentioned it on this show that week. There was a proposal to, instead of sending out $1,200 checks to everyone, right? And it turns out, by the way, that because these stimulus checks were based on tax records, of course, whoever filed taxes the year before, well, some of those people died. There ended up being over 1 million checks sent to people who had died. It was about $1.4 billion worth of money sent to dead people, or to whoever gets their mail. And so my point is, we could have saved a whole lot of money by instead implementing this idea of a line of credit. And the idea here would be that, and they can still do this, that you would set up every individual and every business has the right to a federal government-backed line of credit, that if you need it, to tap into it, to borrow, to keep to keep paying your workers, to keep paying your your rent and your utilities and all these things, then you borrow it. But if for people like me who haven't missed a paycheck yet, I wouldn't tap into it because I don't need it. But I also wouldn't get this check in the mail or in my direct deposit that lots of people like me got. And it would have saved a whole lot of money. Now they want to do that same thing over again.
You have a real point there, that the politicians and Dr. Fauci and a lot of these people who are trying to restrict our behavior and tell us to go home and all these sort of things, they haven't missed a single paycheck. It seems like we never want to talk about the economy when we have one of these doctors on television or in the paper and they're talking about how wonderful they are and what big hearts they have, and they're just trying to protect people from this deadly COVID disease. It always ends up with go home, don't get any money because I'm still going to get a paycheck, and you need to figure it out from there. That's utter nonsense. It really is. But I think we conclude this particular segment by saying that Dr. Stanzel is wrong and I'm right. I know I committed a free market heresy there just a moment ago. I'll try to get a hold of myself. Speaking of not missing a paycheck, let's turn to the teachers and the teachers unions. And this is from Reason Magazine, which is, by the way, a terrific online magazine. I would recommend it. Dr. Stanzel actually turned me on to it in a roundabout way because he kept sending me these articles from Reason Magazine. But we do have to have some sort of, I don't know what you call it, some common sense about the economy. Some common sense about the economy. Now, as this article starts out, it says, as school districts across the country grapple with the question of how to safely and effectively educate students amid a pandemic, teachers' unions are making increasingly ridiculous demands, some of which have nothing to do with the health or safety of students, teachers, or administrators. What a shocker. What are some of these demands, Dean?
Sure. So this really has nothing to do with whether or not it's a good idea to reopen the schools. That's a separate debate in a sense. But these guys are saying that we want a national ban on evictions. That the local school people can't do anything about these sorts of things. They want a moratorium on the opening of charter schools, which, by the way, are a good option, especially the virtual charter schools. That in Oregon they shut them down because they represent the competition to the existing schools. They want an end to voucher programs. Again, another way to give parents more freedom and opportunity in how they educate their children, and especially in a time when the available schooling is limited. The abolition of standardized testing. They want Medicare for all. They want a massive infusion of federal money to education. And just the main thing is a lot of this stuff that A, has nothing to do with health and safety of the students or the teachers. B, their local school district, school board can't do anything about it, right? They can't make Medicare for all happen. They can't make, the national nationwide ban on evictions. That's stuff that other people are in charge of. So, and by the way, one of the things they signed on to here in terms of this LA school district is a petition that, I had it open under that included the people who signed on to it were schools in Boston, school districts in Boston, Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, but also on the signers was the Democratic Socialists of America. So they're in bed directly with those guys on this issue.
And socialism is from the devil, right?
Well.
Oh, come on, man. I thought you'd jump right on that. I thought you'd pop out of the microphone in a Pope costume and say, yes, socialism is from the devil. We're going to talk about the state of Illinois, which has always been a kind of a basket case, and I can't believe that, and I know this sounds mean to some of you because it's probably a little mean, but if you have a bloated state that is in deep financial trouble, elect a really corpulent governor by the name of J.B. Pritzker. I mean, the imagery, you just can't mistake it. But before we get into in Governor Pritzker, I don't apologize. So here, they have legalized marijuana in Illinois. And I'm wondering if you have, and I probably asked you this more than once in the past, Do you have any statistics on states that have legalized marijuana? If the tax revenue there has turned a corner for some of those states, like Illinois, obviously hopes it will.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
When you say that, do you mean turn the corner? Do you mean did it end up bringing in a lot of revenue?
Oh yeah, I know it's brought in a lot of revenue to some states. I mean, out in Washington State, they bring in millions and millions of dollars every year from marijuana sales.
Okay, right, yeah. That I was going to say that has been pretty clear in the states that have done this. Has it helped them turn a corner? I guess that what you mean by that is, does it help them pull themselves out of their fiscal?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Okay,
right.
gotcha. Yeah. Well, it depends, I think, and no, I can't really comment on Illinois specifically on that, but I know that in Colorado at least, they have a constitutional provision that restricts the growth of revenue to the rate of growth of population plus the inflation rate. And so when they first legalized marijuana, it brought in so much money that first year that they went, they brought in more than they were allowed to. So they went over that revenue cap. And the politicians were quickly scrambling, trying to create a loophole that says, oh, well, this drug money or whatever, this drug tax money shouldn't count. But they were not successful at that. But so in a state like Colorado, where there's a strict limit, it didn't really change anything. It was all fungible, essentially. They had to rebate the amount by which they went over the cap. But in a state like Illinois, I would think that Illinois is such a basket case. Certainly, it brought in money that they could help try to dig themselves out of their holes as they dug for them. But I don't see a lot of evidence that there's success on that front, at least in Illinois.
Well, I got a little bit of an attitude about state and federal union members anyway. They sat around on their hands while the private sector unions were crushed, and apparently they never thought people would come for them sooner or later. Well, guess what, guys? Anyway, on to the I've recently lost a lot of weight, by the way, so I can take shots at Governor Pritzker for being overweight.
By the way, one last thing on Illinois is that some of their neighbors, Indiana, Wisconsin, for example, have been cutting taxes and deregulating, whereas Illinois is talking about raising taxes. They have an income tax that's one flat rate, which is good, one of the few good things in their tax system. They're talking about raising that to make it a progressive rate where it goes up. So they're kind of doubling down on some of the bad policies that are driving population migration, kind of fleeing Chicago and fleeing Illinois to other lower tax places.
It's too bad, too, because Chicago's a great city. It really is. It's a great Midwestern city.
Great place to visit.
But Governor Pritzker's a Democrat, and they're going to buy votes with taxpayer money no matter what. I mean, they're just going to keep doing that. Has Governor Pritzker done anything to improve the business climate, according to this article, and it's going to be on my Facebook page very shortly? No. And, of course, if business is looking for a place to invest or a place to settle down, they're not going to do it in a high-tax state. I mean, California is turning into a giant basket case, and it's a beautiful state. It was one of the most beautiful and prosperous states in the Union. But I don't know what they're going to do in the future. I just don't. I mean, there has to be, I understand. We're morally obligated. I don't know if Dr. Stans will agree with me, but we're morally obligated to take care of the least of us, I think. But by the same token, by the same token, we can't do that by choking the most talented either,
moreover, that doesn't mean that we have to do that with money taken forcibly through taxation and done through government programs. There are lots of ways to help those lower incomes and lower abilities or what have you. That I agree with you on the moral component to it, but I don't think that necessarily translates one-to-one that we have to go with a government solution, which is what some would conclude from that. I disagree on that one.
Our guest is Dr. Dean Stansley. He's an economist with Southern Methodist University. We have to get this in because it really applies to our area more than perhaps others. This is also from Reason Magazine. It talks about the COVID virus and meat processing plants. We have a very large meat processing plant 17 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Yes, they've had a lot of problems. We have several meatpacking plants in the state of Iowa, and they've all had terrible issues with the COVID virus. There have been shutdowns. That's why I wanted to see a little bit more response from the federal government, because these people want to go to work. I mean, they do want to go to work. Work is part of our identity, I think.
Sure.
So if you're sitting around doing nothing, what's your identity? Oh, hi, I'm on welfare or whatever.
Well, and there's serious mental health implications to that.
Yes.
And that's a part of the reason why getting rid of these bonus payments needs to happen so that people can get back to work. But yeah, the meat inspection thing, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners know more about this than I do and how the system works. But I found it interesting in the past couple of months where there have been a couple of articles on this issue that we basically have a system apparently where it's mostly these huge meat processing facilities, and because they're so large, they can afford to do what the USDA requires, which is have kind of a full-time ongoing inspector on site. And so what happened is, the conditions inside of these places, of course, are rife for a pandemic, and people got sick, and they had to shut them down. And there's such a large part of the market that there's these meat shortages coming up. And so this article is about small ranchers and how they, middle-sized ranchers, who are able to step into the breach, but for the regulations making it essentially impossible for them to do so. The smaller facilities don't qualify in a sense. There's one example here I want to read real quick. I know we're running out of time. It's short. Under the current law, cuts of meat from a rancher in Florida that's processed in what's known as a custom facility, which is subject to a host of federal and state regulations but doesn't have an on-site government inspector, can't be sold to the public at all, not even at a local farmer's market.
I know you grew up in Florida and you worked there for quite some time. I wasn't aware that Florida was a livestock state or a state that raised a lot of livestock. Oh, really?
Sure. The middle of the state, in particular, lots of ranches, lots of cows there. Not dairy cows, but beef cows. Yeah.
I know Central Florida is definitely agriculture. Definitely. Very strong. Yeah. I just wasn't aware of the livestock thing. But anyway, Dr. Dean Stansel has been our guest, and we got to wrap this up, and I regret it because we're getting into some good things here. But Dr. Dean Stansel is an economist of Southern Methodist University and the O'Neill Center. Dr. Stansel, thank you as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 4:31 at AM 1400 KVFD.
How much money would you like to save just by doing something you're already doing? How about 40%? With Allstate, safe drivers can save 40% just by doing something they're already doing. Driving safe. That's right, 40% just by driving safe. Visit Allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote today and see just how much you can save when you drive safe with Allstate.
Not available in every state. Savings vary and based on DriveWise and other safe driving discounts. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with one count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake in the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Namani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The Public Defender's Office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. University of Iowa basketball standout big man Luka Garza has elected to come back to the university for another year. Garza was this past year's National College Player of the Year and Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. He announced over the weekend, and he's returning, saying, quote, "My heart is in Iowa City. I love this place too much to leave it. I love my teammates, coaches, community, fans, and university. It would have been way too hard to close the book without the last chapter." Garza is one of only 5 players since 1975 and the first in over a decade to return to school after being recognized as the Sporting News National Player of the Year. The other 4 were Tyler Hansbrough of the University of North Carolina in 2008, the University of Illinois' D. Brown in 2005, Ralph Sampson from the University of Virginia in 1982, and arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, in 1983. St. Edmund baseball players Kel Colasia and Peyton Scott have been named all-league selections in the North Central Conference. Colasia was named to the first team as a pitcher, with Scott garnering second-team honors as a pitcher as well. Both are underclassmen and expected to return for the Gales next season. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge 437. Jim Kirsten of Iowa Central coming up in just a few minutes. First of all, in the weather forecast, sunny today with a high of 75. 75 should be our day's high. Overnight, partly cloudy with a low of 52, and it's August 4th. On Wednesday, it's going to be sunny with a high of 77. Thursday, good chance of a thunderstorm. Sunny with a high of 83. Other than that, on Friday, a chance of rain. Partly sunny with a high of 84. On Saturday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Sunny with a high of 90. On Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 91. And on Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 88. Right now, again, 75 degrees in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. John Olmsted has died. John C. Olmsted has died at the age of 58. There will be a celebration of the life of John C. Olmsted, and that will be tomorrow here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. 438 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 75 degrees under a sunny sky with a look at the closing market report. Here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 9 1/4 at 308 1/4. December down 8 1/4 at 320 1/4. March down 8 cents at 332 1/4. May down 7 3/4 at 340 1/4. August soybeans down 13 3/4 at 883 3/4. September down 13 1/4 at 879 3/4. November down 14 1/2 at 881 3/4. January down 13 3/4 at 888. September wheat down 12 3/4 at 508 1/4. Soybean meal down 340 a ton at 283.70. August live cattle down 75 cents at 102.27. October down 80 at 107.47. August feeders down 17 at 144.70. September down 45 at 146.62. August lean hogs down 17 cents at 49.70. October up 62 at 49.02. I'm Dwayne Murley.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks finishing higher with the Nasdaq notching another record close as investors await progress in Washington on a coronavirus stimulus package. The Dow rising 164 points, the Nasdaq up 38, the S&P 500 up 12. And Disney reporting earnings after the closing bell as it continues to feel the impact of the coronavirus. The media conglomerate reported a quarterly loss of nearly $5 billion during a pandemic that has all but paralyzed its theme parks, live productions, and cruise line. Its lone bright spot was its Disney Plus, which launched in mid-November and now boasts close to 58 million subscribers. Disney's direct-to-consumer and international division, which includes Disney Plus, was the only segment to grow from last year. And shares of Nikola tumbling in the extended session after the electric vehicle maker reported a second quarter loss that was wider than Wall Street expected. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
We're the Retirement Income Store. We help hardworking Americans plan their retirement. Stop crossing your fingers and toes and hoping for growth in the stock market. You can invest for income without all the risk using interest and dividends. Start with our free Retirement Income Kit. Call 866-996-1173.
The Retirement Income Store, where retirees go for income.
Online at theretirementincomestore.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm.
Hiring is challenging. Just ask Dylan Miskowitz, the COO of Cafe Altura.
We needed a director of coffee in order to move our products forward. It felt like we were looking for a needle in a haystack.
Dylan started using ZipRecruiter and found his perfect candidate in a few days.
We were very impressed.
Free at ZipRecruiter.com/try. That's ZipRecruiter.com/try.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Yes, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Joining me now from Iowa Central is Jim Kirsten. Hi, Jim. Jim, are you there? Hello. Hello? Anybody there? I guess not. Well, we'll have to wait and see if Jim calls back. Yeah, we had him all set up. I thought he was on the phone there for a minute, but I'll text him here and see if Jim can call us back. It's always good to talk to Jim and find out what's happening. Oh, here we go. Let's try this. All right, Jim, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I lost you there somehow.
I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. No problem at all. Hey, I got something I want to ask you. Charles Clayton was in here a little earlier, and of course the city is trying to react to some changes in our world. And Charles and I talked about poverty and generational poverty. Now, maybe I've talked with you about this before, but 100 years ago we understood the importance of providing public education from kindergarten through the 12th grade. Is it time for us? And you're a Republican, you're a former representative, and you're still involved in what's happening in Des Moines. Would you think it's time that we stepped up to the plate and said that education has to go through 2 years of trade school as well, not just high school, but 2 years of trade school? How would that affect Iowa Central?
Well, it would affect probably, maybe they'll make it more attractive for some to come to school. But right now, the students that can't afford to go to school, if they're eligible, they receive the Pell Grant. So the Pell Grant covers generally 90% of what the cost of a 2-year degree, each year, each semester, and then each year what the cost of education is. So in a roundabout way, we're already getting that basically free access to the Pell Grant. It might make it simpler and cleaner, and I think a lot of different people are talking about different ways to do it. We're using the Pell Grant not just for our general population students, but for the prisoners, and the success has been overwhelming. And the return on the investment to the taxpayer is, many-fold, because it's a lot cheaper to train somebody while they're in prison and then get them a skill so they don't come back. It's $35,000 a year when they're locked up, and if they're out making $35,000 a year and paying taxes, that's a no-brainer. So yeah, I'm sure, I've never seen one, but I'm sure somebody's done a study about what the economic return would be, not only to the individual, but to society if we would, maybe look at, reduced costs for the final 2 years of the technical degrees.
Yeah, I think it's time to do something dramatic, especially when it comes to education. If we're going to truly lift people out of poverty, we must change the culture in some of these neighborhoods. And by that I mean we must give them hope. Some just seem to run out of hope long before it's time to go to Iowa Central. And that's really the unfortunate part. But if they can look forward to something, I'm going to have a way to make a living and have a halfway decent life. Right now, a lot of young people don't believe that. Not just black people, but white people.
No, it's and unfortunately in Webster County, in our schools, 60 or so or 70% of the kids are on free or reduced lunch because they come from low-income families that don't have the good job and the good skill. So we also have to work with retraining their parents and get them off of welfare and get to work. And it'll be a better family environment for that young man or woman. So again, we're working in all those facets, and it's amazing the people that work at Iowa Central that deal with it on a daily basis. They're really dedicated people that help these first-generation students that are afraid almost of walking in a classroom. The perception is scary to them. So we just go overboard to try to help, and it takes time and it takes money.
It's going to take a lot of time. Charles and I talked about that. It's not going to be to solve some of the problems that we've seen develop in our country in the last 4 months is going to take a commitment by all of us over the very, very long haul. I won't live long enough to see the sort of change that needs to happen. But we've got to start somewhere with the realization that it is going to take a long, long time, that we just can't throw money at the problem.
That's a big point, because we had the Great Society in the 60s that was supposed to make everybody live in utopia, and it really didn't accomplish as much as they thought or anywhere near they thought. And again, now what we're dealing with COVID is it's a terrible crisis to the individual, the family, and the economy. But we also have to look at what can we afford. And at some point we're going to have to pay the debt off. And there are, a lot of people are saying inflation is going to really pick up. The price of gold, I guess, went over 2,000 today. I think one of the first times. So it's a very scary environment.
It is. And I think we're smart enough to overcome it. We just got to work together and get the job done.
Our country has always overcome the worst situations from World War I and II, and then of course Vietnam War, and then 9/11. So I believe in the strength of our country.
Well, we need to stop politicizing events that have happened in our country and realize that they are a danger to us all. And this finger pointing is off the chart. Stop with it. We have a problem. It's our problem, not yours, not mine. It's our problem. Let's do something about it. Let's work it out, for God's sake.
I watched the governor's press conference this morning, and Democrat, Republican, like her, not like her, she's, I think, done a wonderful job in the bad situation, trying to help the state recover and get back to work and school. And people are criticizing her for, putting in place the outline and back to school plan that's there. But she is, again, following the law that was passed unanimously on how schools need to deal with coming back into session. And the law simply states 50% of the time when the governor and the health people say it's safe, schools should be providing face-to-face, a minimum of 50% face-to-face, and the others, 50% online. Well, several school districts are saying they're going to defy the governor. So today she said, they can defy the governor. It's not really me. It's the law that they're not following. And if they don't follow the law, the days those students missed when they're at home, when they should have been face-to-face, won't be counted towards the school year being completed. So, those are real stark terms that hopefully, again, as community and leaders, we can all work together. And of course, I've got a daughter who's still going to be a senior in high school. I got a couple of grandsons now, and I don't want them in harm's way. Nobody does. But again, it's just we have to use reason and the facts, I guess.
Yeah, and get over ourselves, for God's sake. I know there's a lot of sick pleasure in some running around screaming racist at everybody, but it's not true, and its time has come. It's worn out. We have a problem, and race is a big part of the problem. So let's start taking some steps together to do it, to get it done.
Well, I think on the race issue, I really think Fort Dodge and Webster County has done a wonderful job of working with the different neighborhoods and communities to let them know we're in this together. We want to, if we need to reform things here in Webster County or the Fort Dodge, city of Fort Dodge, or the college or whatever, we're there to try to listen and enact what needs to be done. And I think it's been it really kind of in some of the most frustrating times facing the country, it's been a breath of fresh air to see how Fort Dodge has reacted, and I'm proud of it.
Well, Mayor Bemrick, Chief Roger Porter, Police Chief Roger Porter, and Charles Clayton were in here on Thursday, and they have big dreams, and I will do anything and everything that I can to help them with their project. But they would like to put together a program that is a statewide model. It can be a statewide model, and I'll tell you, I'm in favor of that. If you want to hear if anybody wants to find a further explanation, I have the entire interview on my Facebook page. That's at AM 1400 KVFD. But yeah, let's get that done. I am again totally in favor of.
Well, I think exactly. The college is very engaged with that effort, and we're going to help put together that community forum. We just have to wait and see what the health guidelines are. I think they're looking at sometime in October. But no, it's very important, and I think it could be replicated not only across Iowa but around the country.
Yes.
This common sense approach to communication and respectful, ways to talk to each other.
Yeah, that would be a start, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
That would be a great start. Oh man!
I remember as a kid, my mom used to say, "If you can't say something nice, don't say it at all."
Yeah.
And I wish more people would think about that.
Most of this planning, and Sam Clovis told me this, most of the planning that's happening as far as the protests in Portland, the leaders are middle-aged white women with college degrees. Now, that doesn't sound like something an educated person should really take part of. I mean, an educated person should see our system for what it is, and if our system needs reform, it's probably not vandalizing buildings. That's not the way to go. And alienating a good segment of the population by your behavior and by your hateful language. That's not the way we do things here in the United States. When 9/11 happened, we bonded together. When the Second World War happened, we bonded together, and we overcame. We can do it this time, too. We can do it this time, too. I've probably asked you this before, but tell us again about the plans that Iowa Central has to bring students back to school.
We're going to be going back full-time, face-to-face, August 24th, I believe. I think that's the date. And we're going to be starting off, people will come on campus and they'll have to wear masks, and we're going to have a station where people can get their temperature checked. So we're just going to do our best and provide the education under the healthcare guidelines. And then as things change, we'll adapt. And, worst case scenario, we'll go 100% online like we were in the last part of last semester. And it's just better to be face-to-face if we can, and in all aspects, socially and also, academically.
Oh, I think you're 100% right. For a couple of months, I couldn't have guests in the studio. I had to do it all by phone, and the communication really suffered. I mean, if I'm here and Ann Meyer was in a little earlier, Steve Peterson, if I can see people and we can converse in person, that's so much better than telephone or Zoom meetings.
That's why it's going to be interesting to see once everything is back to normal, how much air travel will people continue to make for meetings. And I think because of what you said, there will be a revamping of that. People need to be together and have that human connection. The technology's fine, but human connection's better, I think.
Jim, I have no problem wearing a mask if somebody went. I mean, Daniel Pharmacy is my pharmacy, and they won't let anybody in their building without a mask. I'm fine. If John wants that, that's the way it is, and he probably does have to have that being in the business that he is. But I do hope Governor Reynolds continues to offer us a free choice. We're a free people. we're perfectly capable of taking in the information and acting accordingly. And I really think there's a concentrated effort to embarrass her with all these different groups coming forward now saying, well, yes, why don't you put together a statewide mandate? Because it's not needed. A statewide masking.
Again, that's what I agree with you that you got to base your decisions on facts and the outbreak levels and all that versus the emotion of, and again, if you think you want to wear a mask, every right to wear one and should. And but again, I don't know enough about, the issues except I understand she's using the facts and the fact that our hospitals I saw this yesterday, the hospitalization rate was about 400 in May, if people enrolled in hospitals, and today it's 200 and some, so it's half.
Right.
So, again, and then of those numbers, they're going to try to figure out how many are really directly related to COVID, and then, how many not. So it's just a whole work in progress, and again, under unknown, circumstances, I think the state's done a pretty good job.
Oh, I do too, and I commend Governor Reynolds on her leadership because she's really taken a lot of really unfair and unnecessary abuse. Anyway, Jim Kirsten from Iowa Central has been our guest. Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
I'm Phil Gunderson. Gunderson's has a tradition of providing services unmatched in our community. Funeral, cremation, and pre-planning services with certified celebrants on staff, aftercare, video, and customized printed goods that are the standard. We offer live streaming options and community support with remembrance and educational programs. When it's time to look for a funeral home, look to Gunderson's.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Riding the rails for dinner. More from the Iowa Almanac in a moment.
I'm Michael Swanger, owner and publisher of Iowa History Journal. In our July-August issue, fasten your seatbelt and take a magic carpet ride through the fascinating life and times of legendary magician and Civil War Union spy Harry Cook. Discover how the Beach Boys sought good vibrations in Fairfield during the late 1970s, and go behind the scenes in Hollywood to see how Iowans have influenced the movie industry. Get your copy of Iowa History Journal at Hy-Vee or Fairway, or by going to iowahistoryjournal.com.
On August 4th, 1984, a classic passenger train named the Star Clipper departed from Osage. 121 passengers were on board that Saturday night for the first trip on something new, a dinner train. The concept of a dinner train in modern times was something new, allowing many people to experience rail travel for the first time, while also providing entertainment reminiscent of days gone by. That evening, the guests traveled throughout northeast Iowa and enjoyed a fresh, chef-prepared meal, as well as live tableside entertainment. The idea was the brainchild of a legendary short line and regional railroad operator named Jack Haley. He thought restoring old trains and short sections of track would be of interest to people, and the Star Clipper dinner train has been called the father of the modern-day dinner train. Since its restoration, the Star Clipper dinner train has entertained more than 2 million passengers in 3 different states. But it all began with 121 passengers who rode the train for an evening from Osage on this date in 1984. And that's Iowa Almanac for August 4th. Follow us on Twitter at Iowa Almanac. Until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Stein.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with highs around 75. Winds out of the east around 5 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows dip down to about 52. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 78. Low 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered storms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 75.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 9 1/4 at 308 1/4. December down 8 1/4 at 320 1/4. March down 8 cents at 332 1/4. May down 7 3/4 at 340 1/4. August soybeans down 13 3/4 at 883 3/4. September down 13 1/4 at 879 3/4. November down 14 1/2 at 881 3/4. January down 13 3/4 at 888. September wheat down 12 3/4 at 508 1/4. Soybean meal down 340 a ton at 283.70. August live cattle down 75 cents at 102.27. October down 80 at 107.47. August feeders down 17 at 144.70. September down 45 at 146.62. August lean hogs down 17 cents at 49.70. October up 62 at 49.02. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Still deadlocked. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Republicans and Democrats in Congress still have not reached a deal on a new round of relief for those impacted by COVID-19.
The coronavirus is certainly not over. It's still an enormous problem. It's still affecting communities all across the country. And I think the American people would like to see us working together and getting an outcome.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, he says he will support any deal worked out between the administration and Democrats in Congress. Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer.
As this huge crisis engulfs our nation, Democrats believe we need a bold, strong, and vigorous response from the federal government. It will take a lot of resources. But if we don't commit those resources now, for sure the cost will only grow in the months to come.
Schumer accused McConnell of giving what he called Alice in Wonderland partisan speeches because he said McConnell is tied up in knots by his caucus. Isaias is now racing through New England. The storm has killed at least 3 people in the U.S. One man in Queens, New York, was killed when a tree fell on his car. In North Carolina, 2 people died last night when their motorhome was destroyed.
The storm ripped ashore with 85-mile-per-hour winds and storm surge of 3 to 5 feet, leaving behind a trail of damage.
Governor Roy Cooper, a huge explosion in Beirut, Lebanon, has killed at least 60 and wounded at least 3,000. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany says the White House is looking into if the blast was accidental or deliberate.
We're tracking it closely, and just rest assured that we're taking a very good look at that.
Israel says it has nothing to do with the blast, which could be felt as far away as Cyprus. Lebanon's Supreme Defense Council has declared Beirut a disaster-stricken city. Wall Street at the close, the Dow gained 164 points, the NASDAQ plus 38. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20, so switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Oh, whale! Guys, whale! Wow, whale. Oh, that's a big whale. Okay. Whale, whale, whale. Oh, no, whale!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
Well, at least it wasn't a shark, am I right?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. A Sac County man is accused of illegally obtaining COVID-19 relief money from other states. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson has more.
61-year-old Alan Rex of Shaler is charged with 1 count of mail fraud. The complaint against Rex alleged he received approximately $19,000 on unemployment claim deposits to his bank in Storm Lake and the names of individuals from Massachusetts and Arizona. The complaint says Rex then made a series of cash withdrawals from his account and mailed the cash to at least one person in Maryland. Rex appeared in federal court in Sioux City, was released on bond pending further court proceedings. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A fundraiser banquet will be held on Saturday, August 8th at Rides Bar and Grill at 723 South 31st Street here in Fort Dodge. The fundraiser is in honor of the memory of Jamal Cox and will help his surviving wife after Jamal was tragically killed in a shooting in June in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood of Fort Dodge. Dinners can be purchased from 2 to 8 p.m. on August 8th for a cost of $8. They also will have raffles and gift baskets available. Funds raised will help cover remaining funeral costs, the cost of a headstone for Jamal, and bills that have accumulated since his death. A suspect has been arrested and charged after a man was fatally shot in the parking lot of a funeral home in eastern Iowa while the man was attending the funeral of his 8-year-old son. 26-year-old Davenport resident Jeremy Shorter was shot there Saturday morning. Police have not announced whether there is a known possible motive for the shooting as of this time. Police responded to the shooting and officers spotted the suspect fleeing the area in a sedan. Police attempted to make a traffic stop on the car. The suspect then sped off and police backed off, fearing that a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood could injure bystanders. Police later found the suspect, who had fled on foot, and took him into custody. The suspect was identified as 24-year-old Davenport resident Namani Trayvon Laster. During the chase, Laster allegedly threw a bag containing a gun over a fence. Laster is prohibited from having a gun because of felony convictions from 2018. He is charged with first-degree murder, eluding, felon in possession of a firearm, and interference with a weapon. The Public Defender's Office in Scott County has been appointed to represent Laster. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Lows level off around 52 tonight under partly cloudy skies.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey. Chris Hogan, Ramsey Personality, is my co-host here on the air this day on the Dave Ramsey Show. Open phones if you want to talk, 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Joseph is on the line, and Joseph in Michigan is going to start this hour off. Hi, Joseph. How are you?
I'm focused and not finished, Dave. How you doing?
Sounds like a Chris Hogan fan to me. What's up?
So I got a car that I was trying to sell. It's brand new from last year, and I got a dealer willing to pay it off for me, and I just didn't know if I should try to sell it private party and make a little bit more on it, or if I should just get rid of it.
How much is it?
It's $21,000.
What is it?
I think it's worth it's a Subaru Crosstrek.
Okay. Why can't you sell it private sale and make more?
I could. I just a friend recommended this person, and I was like, well, we're trying to sell it because we're Gazelle intense, and
so what are they offering you?
They're offering me 21.
And what could you sell it private sale for?
I think 24.
And how long will it take you to make $3,000?
I'm not sure. Just however long it's on the market, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you have any indication that the car's something that can be sold quickly, or is it going to sit on there?
I mean, I think it could go pretty quick.
Okay.
Or I don't know if I should try another dealership first, or
no, they're all going to be about the same.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not going to.
They're in the business of making money on the car. They're going to make the $3,000.
Joseph, what other debt do you have outside of this car?
Just another vehicle that we owe $9,000 on.
Okay.
What's your household income?
$60 a year.
Okay. All right.
So once we clean up this vehicle situation, you're not going backwards, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, all right, because you got car-itis, it sounds like.
Oh, for sure.
You got to cure that bad boy. But listen, if you can make another $3,000 to $4,000, why wouldn't you do it?
That's why I called in, to have you guys make my decision for me.
No. We want you to make the decision. Yeah. We're just trying to teach you. The thing is, if it takes a month to sell it, and you make an extra $3,000, that's like making $3,000 a month.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And but I think what's happening is you're just like, you want the relief.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're okay. So what if it hurts? I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. And you can always the dealer will buy it any time. So you could try it for a month and then drop it on the dealer if you wanted to. Call us back and let us know if a month from now you made an extra $3,000 or if you ended up having to sell it to the dealer after all.
Okay, will do.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
That's a good way of thinking about it, Dave. I mean, you're right. The dealer's going to give you a dollar amount. They're going to honor it for 30 days. Give it a month. Slap a sign in it. Take it somewhere in a high-traffic area and get to see what happens.
Yeah, get it in Craigslist and get it on Trader, whatever it is. I can't even think what it's called, Trader.com.
Right.
And, Car Guru, wherever it is you're going to post the thing, get it posted a bunch of places and give it a run.
Because that's $3,000 he could use toward the next day.
It's not a bad part-time job to make $3,000.
No, but people don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's,
But and if that dealer won't honor it,
will.
They're going to all be. They buy cars.
That's right.
At wholesale. It's what they do. So, and right now there's a bit of a shortage on cars. The car market's heated up, believe it or not, during COVID, and a lot of new cars are. There's a shortage of inventory because the factories have been shut down, and then people got bored and went and bought cars. And so these dealers are sitting with low inventory in some cases. And so some of these vehicles are going over, on a new car lot, going over sticker because there's a shortage.
Okay.
So, and that's going to pull the used market up as well.
Big time.
So, the new market supports the used market in that regard. So we'll see. I mean, I just, but it's weird. Houses are selling at record rates. Cars are selling at record rates. Boats, you can't find a boat. I talked to my boat guy the other day. He said in 1 month we made more money than we did